Welcome to the podcast where we take a deep dive into the stories behind construction business leaders. We will share how they got started, how they found success, and the lessons learned along the way. I'm your host, Eric Fortenberry. Welcome to Builder Stories. Welcome back, everybody. Today, I am here with Tyler Madden, who is the founder and CEO of Laurelless. They are located in Denver, Colorado, doing exclusive remodels. Really excited to have you on the show, Tyler. Welcome to Builder Stories.
Thanks for having me. Super excited to be here and share some of the lessons I've learned and some of the stuff that I've collected over the years. So excited to be a part of this.
Awesome. Well, appreciate you taking the time. So why don't you kick us off? Kind of give us a little bit of your background. How'd you get into construction? How'd you start Laurelless? What do you guys do? Things like that.
Yeah, the long story that I'll shorten is, in high school, painted commercially, worked for my dad's company, doing big, large scale commercial stuff. And I, really learned what it takes to have a work ethic. There's really not a lot of room for, your young, entitled mentality. And then, it was funny because all along the way, I would work with these foremen and these 40, 50, 60-year-old guys in the trades that have obviously done it their whole entire life. And every single one of them was like, get out. Don't do this. Go to college. Go to school. Do something else. Don't land here. And I was like, yeah, you got it. So went to college, got, the standard thing that every general contractor goes and gets, got a biology and a chemistry degree, thinking I'm going to go to medical school. College comes, things don't go the way that I want it to. Med school doesn't happen. Trying to figure out, hey, what the hell do I do with my life? Do what everyone does with a biology and a chemistry degree. And I go get a job at a restaurant, bartending, serving, that whole thing. Rise through the ranks, apply that same concept. How you do anything is how you do everything. If you're going to do it, don't half-ass it. Get into the management positions at that business and realize, I don't like working for other people. I'm not cut out for that. It's just not my jammy jam. So when I was at the bar, we actually bought our first house, my girlfriend at the time and it was a fixer-upper in Denver, Colorado. And we move in and, it was a decent house, but nothing was updated, nothing was fixed, nothing was remodeled. And I was like, man, I'd really like to give my girlfriend the nicest house that I can. You have some people come, some subs, some specific trades come give you some pricing and you're like, I will learn how to do that because I cannot pay for that. So in 2013, I just started tinkering with things, going to YouTube, learning as much as I can through trial and error on my own house, and literally learned as many trades as I possibly could, tried to do things. And the reason I did it myself wasn't necessarily because I was cheap, but I also did hire out some more key specialty things that I assumed at that point, if you're a career fill-in-the-blank tradesman, tile person, carpenter, painter, whatever, if you're a career one of those and that's how you make your exclusive living, you've got to do it really well, right? So I assumed they can surely do it better than me and apply a finer tooth comb and be more technical. And then I would hire them and then they would rush through and I'd be like, well, I don't do this for a living, but I'd like to see X, Y, and Z a little bit better. I'd like to see the grout lines lined up vertically instead of these raw cuts. And I would pick these things apart after they would leave, but I don't like conflict, so I wouldn't tell them that to their face because I'm like, who am I to tell a career tile person that their job isn't very good? So I would fix this shit at night. Can we cuss? You interview a lot of contractors. Surely I can't be the first one to cuss, right?
Okay.
I'll limit it. So surely I'm there at night fixing their stuff, learning, well, if they weren't willing to do it the right way, I'm the guy that's going to do it the right way. And all the while I started working with a friend, a business owner of a friend. It was their mom and she was a designer and she would take on more design stuff. And then their clients would want more remodel stuff. And she'd be like, you're remodeling your house. You can remodel this house. And I was like, yeah, yes, but no. So we started doing little things, more cosmetic stuff. And I spent 2 or 3 years doing that. And it got into the point of doing whole entire homes, while I was also simultaneously doing mine. And then we started buying real estate and I would self-perform a lot of things. And, we grew our bench of subcontractors over the years and specialist things that I didn't want to do. So it just grew and grew until I lost my job at the bar. All that was happening as just like a side project, side hustle. Lost my job at the bar, went full time helping this lady. And then I just got tired of being the guy that knew everything about construction, was responsible for creating the layout, the design, the implementation, lining up the schedule, the subs, the budget, everything. And she was just there. And I was like, cool, you get to like set the curtains and the couch at the end of the project. And somehow somehow we're splitting this not amicably. So that's when I separated from her, started my own business, working for myself, realizing I just wasn't cut out to work for someone else. And that's when we created Laurelless. Originally, it was called Madden Design because Tyler Madden. And I was like, well, I don't want it always to be married to me. Like when I want to grow out of doing this stuff, it doesn't make sense to have a business named after me. So we took all the concepts that are like really locked into my DNA of all the things I already mentioned. How you do anything is how you do everything. Don't half-ass it. All of those things. If it's worth doing, it's worth overdoing. And we came up with the term Laurelless. Are you familiar? Have you ever heard the term resting on your laurels?
Yep.
Resting on your laurels is a concept that most people attribute to good enough is good enough. And you're just going to sit back on your laurels because everything is just fine. I don't have laurels to rest on. Good enough is never good enough. I always take every little detail and try to zoom into it because I feel like the smallest detail makes the biggest difference. And that's how we run our construction business. If I didn't get into construction, I was a lawn person, I would apply the same concept to how I cut lawns, to, how I, run whatever business I would run, it would have that same concept. So we created that name and that's kind of what our business has been centered around is, excellence in all we do and trying to absolutely, overdo everything, whether it's the communication with the client, whether it's the delivery of the, customer service. We like to say that we sell an experience at Laurelless to our clients because we want them to come to us for everything from the concept, the creation of the design to specking out what design features, all the materials, and then a one-stop shop all the way through completion of the project, execution of it, so that they're not looking for designers or architects or any of that. So, we just try and be as much of a boutique firm that does everything from, design to build on remodels. And that's where we found a lot of, satisfaction. That's where I found a lot of satisfaction, taking my nuance and everything I care about and applying it to remodel construction.
Yeah, that's super awesome, man. That's really, really interesting. I can't say I've ever had anyone, tell me they had originally named their company, after themselves, but then had the forethought to think, man, like one day maybe, I want to sell this or go off or do something else. Exactly. Don't want it tied to me. Exactly. That's really smart.
Well, and you're a visionary and a founder yourself. And I think there's a lot of parallels between, what your listeners, could and should be hearing. I mean, probably not here to give construction tips. I think there's more value in thinking like a business owner than a contractor on your show and understanding what it takes to grow and scale a business such that you're not absolutely required to contribute to it for it to continue running. And I think that's visionary thinking rather than contractor thinking. So there's a mindset shift, I think, that people need to go through.
Yeah. So what year was this when you officially started Laurelless?
I think it was 2017.
2017.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
2017, 2018, somewhere in there.
So what was it like in the first, first year or so? Like, was it just you? Did your wife kind of join immediately or did she join you later?
So a lot of it was just me. She actually had a stable W-2 job through all of this. When I'm gallivanting out there like a wannabe business owner and being self-employed, when you're, newly self-employed, you don't have paper trail that supports your income, trying to get loans and trying to buy real estate. That sort of stuff isn't super easy when you're, an entrepreneur. But when I separated from that designer, obviously, I didn't have a faucet that I could just turn on that was immediate leads and immediate jobs. Like she was attracting the jobs and lining those up. So that was something where I started taking jobs that really I didn't want, just like I'm sure a lot of contractors are, where it's like, I just got to take the next one that pays me. Not the ideal scenario, but you've got to do whatever you can when you first start to create your reputation and, get out there and have, a significant wake of, satisfied, or a significant number of satisfied people in your wake. So yeah, very involved on the ground, very minimally trying to grow a team. And that was in 2017, 2018. And it wasn't until like 2021 that I hired my first full-time employee, which was a project manager, which ultimately just, it was a reflexive thing where I was like, I just need someone, and it probably wasn't the right hire. And at that point, they contributed for a couple of years. And then the goal was always to bring my wife into the business, but you also have to do something to accommodate that move where she's giving up a whole entire salary from someone who pays her every 2 weeks to join my stupid little idea where it's like, hey, we might get paid eventually. So she joined 2 years ago, in 2023. Full time as the COO. So I'm the CEO, founder, visionary, I think in future tense. And she is the COO, comes from a background in HR. So she thinks in present tense, where she takes my ideas and puts a game plan together to achieve it. So a really good pairing, on paper, and working with your spouse is, fraught with challenges as well. But, that's kind of the process since like 2021. Hired a project manager. I was still hyper involved in doing a lot of the work. It wasn't until maybe a year ago that I really started separating myself from the daily activity of construction and trying to force myself to be CEO visionary, who has a very different role than the people that are actually, swinging hammers.
Yeah. So who focuses on sales?
So I currently focus on sales, at least as far as, selling the gospel of what we do. That's something that I'm obviously very passionate about. So I want to have that interaction with the clients, with our homeowners, just to ensure they understand, hey, here's what our process looks like. Here's how we differ from other contractors. I just want to make sure I'm a good fit for you and make sure you're a good fit for me. I'm sure you've talked to a lot of contractors that are taking jobs with just nightmare clients, and that's not what we want. We want to, ensure very early on that it's a good two-way street, for both of us. So I'm involved in the sales, up until the point of creating the estimate, the scope of work, delivery of that, and so on and so forth. Then it goes to our project manager.
Awesome. Yeah, no, it's, I hear all the time about nightmare, client situations. So what do you do to, it sounds like you're kind of interviewing them too. So like, do you have any sort of red flags or things that you're looking for to try to decide if someone's going to be a good fit or not?
Yeah, I think we start early on, where our website is our lead magnet that we refer to. And if anyone comes as a word of mouth referral, if they haven't been to our website, I make sure that they go there. Then we've got our form submission on our website. So our website and our forms are designed to weed people out that aren't a good fit for us, rather than us having to answer the phone every single time Joe Schmo calls and ask them all the questions and have a success rate that's extremely low. So a lot of the questions that we ask on our website is, one, like what type of project are you looking for? Is it a basement? Is it a bathroom? Is it a kitchen? Is it a whole home? Is it an entertaining space? And then within that category, we're asking them, what's your time frame? What's your expected budget? Because the biggest thing I want to make sure of is, one, you went through our website, you know what our process looks like. I'm not just the guy that shows up and you have all the parts and pieces that I need and you expect me to put it together. I want to make sure they understand I'm going to help you through design. I'm going to spec out the materials. I'm going to hold your hand through this whole entire process. So we need them to understand that we don't want a hyper involved client. We want a client that wants to trust their contractor and go live their life in a way that allows us to execute their project without them breathing down our neck. But we earn that trust up front. So yeah, the making sure they have a realistic budget is like the first thing that we want to come to terms with, instead of spinning our wheels, creating a scope of work and an estimate, because we do a very comprehensive scope of work, that ultimately puts us in a position where it's so thorough that we know all of the ins and the outs, with the exception of like curveball stuff you might discover, mold or rot or things like that. But we never want to give them a change order. So we're spending quite a bit of time creating a thorough scope of work and a price that we will not change. Every time they say, oh, well, I want this, every contractor's favorite thing to say is, oh, that wasn't included, or that's going to cost money. We want to include everything, give them the big number up front. So if we're wasting time on clients that don't have a realistic budget, that's a huge bummer. So yeah, are you asking those questions right out of the gate?
Are you educating them on your website about what the cost would be to do certain, projects?
Exactly. We've got blogs on our website that are helping people understand, like, hey, what are the typical costs? The thing that we need to, make more clear is a lot of people that are expecting to go find a designer and then hand that design to a contractor. Obviously, they're expecting to pay a designer that amount of money. Is like, we don't really have a direct fee for design. One, because we don't want people to come get design through us and then go take it and shop another contractor. We want them to sign up to work with us throughout. So we bake those numbers into the rest of the thing. So that's somewhere I think we could educate our clients a lot more, is like, what's the cost of design, or what's the benefit of using us for your design? But yeah, we're definitely trying to make it clear that, $20,000-$30,000 isn't really going nearly as far as you used to think.
For sure. So have you, I assume early on you must have you've outsourced the design, but is that now a full-time role within the company, or how do you do the design?
I've never outsourced it.
Never.
It's always been me. Yep. So I've always been
design too.
Yep. So I've always been the guy that does the architectural design, the floor planning, the layouts, all that sort of stuff. Hey, we can move this wall. Hey, we can reimagine this space. That's always been something that I loved doing, and my brain really works conceptually with.
Yeah. That's I'm not surprised that you also do the design. Is there anything you fault for, Tyler?
Honestly, that's kind of how the business got to where it was. Is literally, I was the guy that did all the things, whatever it was. If the business needed it, I was always trying to figure out, where's the intersection of, I can save this money by doing it myself, but I never really understood the opportunity cost. The opportunity cost is if I'm busy doing that means I can't do something else, which is maybe get more clients, maybe think about the next iteration of the business. All those things are still true. But I think any business owner, especially someone who has worked in the field, needs to come to terms with themselves and make that mental decision that just because I can do it doesn't mean I should do it. And that's where I'm at currently. And that's where, I'm also trying to get my wife, the COO, because she's still jumping into a ton of positions. I'm like, just because we can doesn't mean we should. That's not a recipe for the growth and scale that we want to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's the natural challenge for any entrepreneur who's really passionate about what you're doing. You could do it, but it's like, how do you delegate? When's the right time? Like, it's so hard to kind of let go a little bit, but it's all about, hiring the right people, building the right team. So what does the rest of the team look like today?
So right now we've got myself, CEO, my wife, COO. We've got an executive assistant for both of us that handles, emails, scheduling, that sort of thing. We've understood the value of human capital with low-level tasks. So we've been trying to really get that out of the way. And then we've got a full-time salaried project manager, a full-time hourly foreman, a full-time hourly laborer. We just had 2 laborers that we let go just because they weren't reaching our standard, and it really made me feel like we were sacrificing our offering. So we went through a phase of cleaning house with really increasing the output and the quality of the output. And then we've got a VA who does he helps with our drafting right now. So we're outsourcing that, where I'll give him the first iteration and have a meeting about what our ideas look like. And then outside of that, you're looking at it.
All right.
Yeah.
And how many projects are you guys managing at one time?
So we've got anywhere from 4 to 6 projects active at any given time, where, again, every single one of those is everything from concept to completion. Some of them are in the pre-construction planning phase, where we're still ironing out all the design materials and, really nailing down. And we try and phase all of them such that, hey, we don't have a huge team and we don't like to outsource a ton. So we try and phase them such that, hey, the guys that are doing demo don't need to be at 3 places simultaneously, where we'll phase those, 2 to 3 weeks apart. So yeah, we're really trying to figure out what's that happy position of our team's capacity, plus obviously what the business needs to survive. We've got a fair amount of overhead. When you take on employees, a lot of times it begs the question, are you taking on employees and are they generating additional revenue to cover their costs and more? Or are you just keeping the same delta between what you make and what you need to spend on everyone? If that margin isn't growing every time you hire someone, it's really hard pill to swallow, where it's like, great, our margins are still the same. We just have more overhead. So that's what we're still honestly trying to figure out is, at what point does it become more exponential, where your margin grows not in relation to the number of people? Like your existing team can really start having multiples to their cost to your bottom line. And hey, at what point do they start creating revenue that's 1.5 or 2x their cost? That's where, I think our graph is going to start hockey sticking. But we're still trying to find that.
Do you guys have like an annual budget for the company where you've, really tried to model out kind of what the revenue goals are? What the overhead is, kind of, does that, do you use that to help sort of inform when to make those hires?
We do. So the other team member that I left out was we do have a fractional CFO. Fractional meaning he's not just exclusively working for us. We pay him. He works for multiple different businesses as their CFO because we don't need a full-time CFO. I don't want to give someone, whatever it takes to hire one as a salary. But for our needs, he's contributing to helping us forecast, and he's doing all of our accounting. He's doing all of our forecasting, looking at all of our work in progress, identifying, hey, you guys have, the goals of hitting X revenue annually. Here's your burn rate. Here's how many jobs you need, on a monthly, or how much money revenue you need to create monthly, quarterly, all of that. So we've got our annual goals. We've got our quarterly goals, and then he's helping us make sure that we're making the right decisions. But also it's always that problem of like, well, you can't afford to hire someone, so you're the guy. Where I'm like, well, I don't love that.
What's your, when you think about continuing to build the team, like what is your hiring process? Like how do you recruit people? How do you vet them? It sounds like you've let a couple people go. Would you attribute that to, did you make the wrong hire, or did the company grow and they couldn't keep up? Kind of, how do you sort of think about continuing to build?
I think it's, I think it's a combination of things. I think as a visionary and founder, you've got to do a good job at inspiring a team with a vision for the business. Just as you have at JobTread, where you had a vision and you've inspired a lot of people to join that vision. And at a certain point, if you're not providing them enough guidance with what the business aims to achieve, and you're not vetting them and verifying, hey, what does the business need from this position? Identifying the roles and responsibilities instead of having ambiguous guidelines on like, hey, I think your job should entail, this, that, and the other. So the first couple of hires, we didn't have near enough systems, processes. It was just like, hey, you could join the team because you're eager and you reached out to me. I didn't even have a job posting. Like, yeah, you're in. That was the initial kind of process of hiring, and I didn't love it, and it didn't benefit the business. And honestly, we're still going through that, where my goal for the business since before I ever hired my first employee was always to create something with the business that is a beacon of excellence that attracts people that want to contribute to it, that literally attracts tradespeople, it attracts all the employees, where it's like, hey, we stand for something different in an industry that is plagued by people that think good enough is good enough. If you agree with the concept, the philosophy, and the values that we have, we'd love to, have someone like that join our team, have a multitude of people like that join our team. And my theory, I read a lot of business books, and the theory is if you've got a lot of A players, rock stars on your team, collectively, that team of rock stars will not permit someone who's just mailing it in. If someone else joins the team and they're clearly not a rock star at their job, the whole collective of the team is like, yeah, we're all contributing to a vision and you're making it harder for all of us. So either get better or get out. That's my dream, is to have a team, but ultimately our team is small right now such that there is no collective. So my hiring technique, attracting people, I'm spending a lot of time refining our internal messaging, refining our vision, documenting what our mission, vision, values, all of that sort of stuff is, and then putting that out into the universe via, the website, social media, obviously hiring platforms, and then networking as well. I think professional networking locally is extremely valuable. I've done that a lot in real estate investing, but very little in the building community. And that's something that I think would be extremely beneficial, is continuing to network. Like, the other thing that I would say with our hiring efforts is, like, after a number of hires that didn't benefit the business in the way that I expected it to, I want to be a whole lot more direct during the hiring process of saying, this is all the stuff that I need to see from this job position, instead of letting them kind of write their own like roles and responsibilities. Say, hey, what's all the stuff that I do not want to do myself? Your job is to do those things within this role. And then simultaneously do the same thing with my wife and be like, what are all the things that you're doing that are not your job, that are the project manager's job, that are the designer's job, that are the whatever. So let's create that job listing based on the skills and the tasks and the roles that we're still contributing to that we don't want to, instead of just finding a boilerplate project manager roles and responsibilities online. It's just a standardized thing where it's like, I think my business is specific to me, my wants, my needs. Therefore, so too do the job descriptions need to be. And I think that's probably true for everyone's business.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I always encourage people like, take as long as you need to find the right person. I've been talking to a lot of people lately who, they say they'll actually pay, the applicant to come spend a day or two, like in the field working with them. Cause it's easy for someone to come and just, put on a happy game face for an hour in an interview. But like, man, to go through a full day's worth of grind, like at the end of that day, what's that person like doing? Do I really want to, go have a beer with them? Like, are they someone I want to hang out with? Like, is that, the type of person that will fit well with your culture and your company? And so, I think the better job you can do hiring them on the front end, the more likely they'll be successful for you.
And I think you really nailed it. And as a contractor who's worked in the field and never really had W-2 experience working in those formal arenas of like, hey, we've got a hierarchy. You report to this person and this person. Like, I'm not familiar with that world. I've never had a W-2 job. I've always been hourly based, where it's like, you show up, you do your job, you get paid. Where I lack that knowledge, that experience. So that's somewhere where I'm really trying to educate myself and get a lot better. And I would beg the same question of you, is obviously you grew and scaled a business with some significant scale. So like those early hires compared to the latter hires, when you reach a certain scale, you've got people that can help you keep and hold accountability and help dictate the needs of, whatever different departments. So I would ask you, like during the early portions of your journey, what was hiring like, and how did you get to the point where your business and your efforts really hockey sticked on the graph? Because I'm curious to navigate that.
I think, so I'm really fortunate. The kind of the core team, as I would describe it, the people who were here from the very beginning. I mean, a lot of us, we all worked together at the previous software company. My first business, we sold in 2015. And so, I was fortunate to kind of be able to pick and choose the better of the best and kind of bring them onto the team. And I think there's something to be said about like, having that longevity, being able to just like trust those people because like you've worked with them for over a decade, like, them. It's so hard to hire and pay someone to be loyal and to know at the end of the day, they're going to be there, so to the extent that like you find and pick the right people early on, I mean, it makes all the difference in the world. And, you can't put the second story on a home if you didn't build a strong foundation.
Correct.
At the ground. And, I think it's all about, focusing on your team, on your culture. Like we haven't outsourced anything. We don't have any remote people. Like we all literally work together in the same office. And we've just put a lot of emphasis on building the right team, the people that, arguably you spend more time with your coworkers than your own family because of how much time you're sleeping at home. And it's like, are these the people that we want to go into battle with every single day? Is this who I want to wake up and spend the next 8 hours next to? Like, you got to focus on building the right team and then putting like this the structure in place where everybody is incentivized and rewarded and recognized for their successes. So many times I see people who, their team is awesome, they're doing great work, but they never take the time to go and show appreciation. You got to showcase your people and when they're doing great work, like recognize them for it. Like we do something super simple, but every team lunch. So we do team lunch every Wednesday, and we have a who's kicking ass box that anybody throughout the week can put in just a little anonymous.
Oh, that's awesome.
To recognize someone. And so the very first thing I do at the beginning of every team lunch is I read those out. Nice. And this is like it's a free thing that we do that like it costs us nothing to make sure that we're recognizing everybody because obviously I can't see everything. Nobody can see what everyone's doing all the time, but like we all see each other. And so by bringing that front and center, it really creates a very, encouraging culture of people to go above and beyond and to do the things even when nobody's looking. How do you excel, everywhere? And so I think that's like just such a great system. And I encourage people, like, think about how can you take the time to recognize your people. I mean, if someone, gets a shout out in a Google review, like, share that with the whole team, like thank them, like let them know, like, man, like, I saw this, or I saw that work you did, or I saw how you treated that customer, or that other sub, or your vendor, like just those little things. I think they go so far.
Absolutely.
I've learned you can't just like, pay people to be passionate. Like you have to genuinely show them you care about them and you want them to excel.
Yeah, it's definitely something, especially as someone in, the contracting field, where if you've come from the trades and you're trying to grow and scale a business, that's a skill set all its own. It's a mindset. We talked about that early on. It's a mindset all its own that is very vastly different from being an operator or being a tactician where, hey, I'm just going to go in and do the damn thing. Where now you have to understand, like we said, understand the value of human capital, and the business can't exist without other people. So how do you figure out how to attract, retain, and celebrate those other people? And that's an ongoing mission of ours, is to attract, retain, and celebrate the people, because ultimately this business, if those people aren't contributing, the vision doesn't come true.
Yeah, and you mentioned, celebrating. Like, I think it's so important that, you don't just celebrate the big goals and the big wins. Like, you got to find ways to celebrate the small wins along the way. This being an entrepreneur, building a business, like there is no end in sight, right? Like, you're just constantly charging ahead, climbing whatever mountain's next, tackling whatever problem gets thrown your way. And it's like, you got to find ways to celebrate the small wins. And that's where, I really like where, even if you have a set of goals, whether it's, a monthly goal, it's, hey, we want to close out this project in this timeline, or some sort of just find the small wins.
Yep.
And then find ways to celebrate, bring in, breakfast tacos, or have a happy hour, or take the team out, to a lunch, or,
yep,
dinner, or something like that. Like, I think that's that goes so far, and it really helps to just show people that, guys, it's not just about, closing out and, maximizing our profit every job. It's like, hey, I want to recognize you. I want to thank you. I think too, I encourage people to also think about not just your immediate employees, but think about the greater kind of community, their families, the people that, at the end of the day, if you can involve them, maybe, and it's not all the time, but some events, maybe the holiday parties, things like that, but invite the extended families and let them come and feel like they're part of this, this movement, this community, that
subcontractors and their families, vendors.
Yeah.
That's exactly, our thought process is not just putting our heads down and pretending nothing else matters. It's how do you involve the greater community? How do you network within it? How do you get them to understand what you stand for and, show gratitude to their contributions?
Absolutely. So I'm curious, you said you read a lot of books. Do you have any favorites that you'd like to recommend for others?
Yeah, they're not tactical business books. I'm much more of a mindset guy. You just mentioned something that really resonates with me, where you're always chasing the next mountain. There's always every time you hit a goal, you're like, oh, well, yeah, but it could have been better, or could have been bigger, could have been whatever. And then you set your sights immediately on the next thing. I never celebrate small wins. I don't even celebrate big wins. You get to them and you're like, fuck, next could have been a little bit better, even when they're great. So that's a mindset of maintaining perspective and gratitude for what's happening right now. And the book that I love that really supports that is called The Gap and the Gain. It's written by Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy, I think. They've written a number of books, and I love every single one of them. But it's called The Gap and the Gain. And the premise about that is if you look at a timeline of where you started and where you are along that timeline, if you are measuring or where you started, where you are, and where you want to be. So you're always going to be between where you started and where you want to be. But if you're measuring the distance between where you currently are and where you want to be, that's called measuring the gap, what I don't have. They shift that whole concept of measure where you are against where you started, and that's called the gain. What have you gained since you started, and have gratitude and appreciation and perspective for that, rather than saying, well, I don't have that yet. Well, I'm not at $10 million in revenue yet. Well, I don't have 25 employees yet. I don't. That's living in the gap, and that's always a huge recipe for having constant anxiety, constant stress, constant well, there's too much to do. Whereas if you flip that on your head, where it's look at how good we did do. Could we have done better? Sure. But look at how well we did do.
Awesome. Love it. My favorite book right now, it was They Ask You Answer by Marcus Sheridan, but he just put out a kind of, I think it's a third edition of it. It's called Endless Customers. Which, it's all about, answering all of the questions that your customers may have. Don't just wait for them to call in and ask questions. The better you can be about providing education and leveraging videos and all of the content, everything that that they need to know, because people were, salespeople were all getting asked the same questions over and over and over again. He's like, you need to answer those questions and answer all of the hardest questions, the things that you think, you wouldn't want to share, you wouldn't want to put out there.
Yeah.
He's like, just, do it. That will help them to better understand who you are, and it builds trust. When they see that you're being transparent, like you're wanting to do that. Like, I think I read this book, the first one, They Ask You Answer, like maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And it really transformed how we operate in regards to, like, we used to put out, and you guys have been with us for a long time on Job Trade, like we used to do all of our customer town halls and the product updates were only for our customers. And, his premise was that, if you're doing anything, and you're hiding from the competition, or you don't want to share something because the competition might find out, well, you're doing your prospects and your customers a disservice because you're making it harder for them to learn about you and what you do and the updates. And so, after that point, like we open it up to everyone, every webinar,
transparency,
every product update, it's out there, and we publish everything on YouTube. Like,
I love it.
Everything. And like, I think that's like really been one of the probably the most transformative things for us. We've got over 500 videos on YouTube now. And like, we had, hundreds of customers signing up every month, and we probably only, they only talked to like half of them because they're already getting all of that education, all that knowledge. They see the product. Like, they don't need to go through our sales process to just go sign up. And like, I think his book is just super awesome. This 3rd edition's kind of really brought into.
Remind me, what was the 3rd edition called?
So it's called Endless Customers by Marcus Sheridan. And, he's also kind of talking about like AI and like sort of really updated it, but it's very kind of marketing and video focused. But like, man, the importance of video, I think is just like, I think a lot of people don't leverage video enough. And I can't encourage you any more than I can. Like, you gotta leverage video, at all phases. I mean, with every customer, right? Like, I ask people, like, so do you create, do you record a video testimonial? Do you do a video walkthrough? Like, do you ask them, do you interview them? Like, hey, what was the problem you're having? Why did you, hire us? Like, tell us about the experience, show us the end product. Like, that's like marketing gold.
Yeah.
And yet people don't do it. They don't go capture that.
I think you mentioned a couple of things where I think that's like very valuable for sales, and a lot of people that aren't salespeople by nature. I'm not a salesperson. You think, the less you share, like, you don't want to share the nitty gritty, the hard questions. You want to and people expect that salespeople are going to be a little bit shady and they're not going to be transparent. So I could certainly see the value of like the full transparency, where especially for people before they even get to a sales conversation, they've already seen all the stuff. So it's also vetting your potential customers or clients. Whereas like, we gave you all the information, you're still interested, great, you're our people. Yeah. But also, like you mentioned, trying to hide from the competition and like keep your nose down and fly under the radar. And I think that's a lot of people's problem, mine included, whereas like, I don't want to be too transparent, especially on the internet. Like, I use social media pretty prevalently personally. I've got a fair following. And anytime we post something, like, the internet is full of trolls, like, it makes you feel like garbage really quickly. And I'm like, oh, I don't like this. But to your point, and I think any content creator that's ever, created a following, where you're not going to get a lot of traction right out of the gate. You're not going to get a lot of interaction. You're not going to get a lot of clients, but the consistency of doing it, I think, for any content creator, is where it's at, where do it no matter if it benefits you right out of the gate or even in the first however long. So I definitely want to look into that, because it is second nature to be like, I don't want to like overshare, because then some other professional is going to come tell me I'm dog shit and like, I don't know what I'm doing. And
I think, talking about pricing is probably like the most prevalent example. Like, so many people, they don't want to publish, what is their price or their price range and like, to Marcus's point, he was like, look, you don't actually have to give them a price, but you have to give them your thought process, like help them understand what goes into the price, like help them understand what drives the price up and what brings the price down. And the complexities of construction, like it's more about kind of creating that education and being, transparent with why you price the way, the way you paid, how you come up with the price and all the costs and the factors. And like, I think that's where it's just like super helpful. And I mean, I've seen more and more contractors who, they are publishing like, hey, here's our, our typical average, kitchen remodel might be from X to Y. And if you wanted to do a bathroom, like it gives people that like, that insight ahead of time, so that if they do decide to schedule that call, well, you know that when you first come out with that price, it's not going to be that initial sticker shock because you already told them what the range would be. And
we primed them to receive exactly that. No, I think there's a lot to be said about that, and I haven't thought about it that way. My social media manager, who does my social media, just personally, not for the business, posted something recently where it was like a comical thing, and the text was like, "Oh, you think you're going to get 2 bathroom remodels and a kitchen remodel for $50,000?" And it was just like they were just like, "Nope, nope, 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 nope." And then in the comments, everybody, almost like hundreds and thousands of comments, and there was like multiple hundreds of thousands of views on this, and it just went viral. And I was like, "Oh, I hate this." Everyone was like, I could do it. I could do it for half of that. I know. I was like, yeah, but you're self-performing all of that. You're not trying to create and scale a business with overhead and understand your profits and your numbers and hiring out the right people. And they're like, you self-perform. And it was just like tearing me apart. And I was like, I don't like this at all. But that's like Instagram in a nutshell. And you're talking about leveraging, either your website or YouTube and publishing this stuff, not as like a social media aspect, but an educational aspect. And I think it would be beneficial for me to take that and understand the value of educating clients, rather than, going viral on a stupid reel.
I mean, but look, don't get me wrong. I mean, like you can't complain that you had all of those people, looking at your profile and looking at your website and saying, who is this guy? Like, even if they disagreed, well, they commented, they created engagement. They actually extended the reach for you and you got them going. Like, I mean, that's like, mission accomplished. You created that awareness. And so like, I think it is, again, like it's not doing what everyone is going to agree with. Mm-hmm. It's being real. It's being honest. And like, yeah, sure. People can go hire, Chuck in a truck and he can cut every corner under the sun and they're not going to be satisfied. And it is what it is. And I think people are starting to see that. And by you sharing more about the why and the under the hood and like what goes into it and why you don't want to hire a contractor who's, going to just give you the cheapest price and go,
a jack of all trades.
Yeah. So it's, I think it is important, but, I think with social though, I mean, just why you brought it up, I mean, like, again, that again builds the trust. People want to know who are the people behind this company. Like, do I like these people? Do I trust these people? Do I want these people in my home? Like, who are they? And I think that's like so many of these like entrepreneurs I see, they neglect to build their own brand. Yep. And they just post on their company's, pages and like, for better, for worse, the social media sites, they're really downplaying all of the company's 100%. Content. They want to, boost the people. Yes. And that's what drives engagement. People are not likely to engage with a company's page. But if, like when I post the same content on JobTread and on my Facebook, I get like, 50 or 100x the views, the engagement, the likes, the comments. And it just goes to show like that's what drives people. People want to engage with me, not just some, brand behind the scenes, some company. I mean, I think you got to do both. But so many people don't focus on their own personal brand.
You nailed it. The personal brand, I agree. And that's exactly what I've been focused on. And the trifecta that we talk about all the time is know, like, trust. You want people to know, like, and trust you. And then no matter what you get into, if they know you as a person, and Laurelless is not just going to be a remodel business, there will be other things under the Laurelless umbrella. It's a beacon of excellence. But whatever I do next, if they already know, like, and trust me, the people that have been supportive of what I do will more than likely support the next thing that I do, regardless of whether I have a reputation in that space, regardless of any of my, demonstrated experience or expertise. They already know, like, and trust me. And there's nothing more valuable that you can earn, in my opinion. I care about you. I want to do right by you. Yeah. Let's make this happen instead of just a business that everyone's suspicious of.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. All right. So as we kind of wrap this up here, I'm curious, like, if you were to have to pick a couple pieces of advice to share with others, is there anything that now that you wish you would have known when you're starting off on your journey? Just kind of what guidance, what advice would you give to others who are maybe earlier on thinking about making the plunge, starting their own thing?
Yeah. It's funny. I just had a conversation with my HVAC guy yesterday. He's in the field and wants to own the business. And I was like, dude, there's a lot ahead of you. We touched on it a couple times, and the biggest thing that I would recommend is, you can't do it by yourself. If you expect that you're gonna, go be Chuck in a truck and you're gonna be the one guy that does the sales, the marketing, the operations, the accounting, you're gonna do all of that. Understand what you're signing up for and understand that is not sustainable. So at a certain point, you're going to need to figure out how to attract talent, how to manage that talent, and how to hold that talent accountable, whatever that talent is, whether it's a salesperson, a marketing person, an operations person, a foreman, a technician, whatever the case. And then you're going to have to figure out how to grow from just the guy that does the things to managing people. And managing people and holding people accountable is a whole different world that, frankly, I don't think a lot of us guys from the trades are really set up for. But it does have its values. I mean, you're working for yourself. When you're working for yourself, it doesn't mean that you just have the ultimate amount of flexibility. You think you're a business owner, so you just have all the free time in the world. No, you'll work harder than you have ever worked in your whole entire life, but it's for a purpose. And, getting into the mindset thing, I haven't really mentioned it, but the thing that I like to keep front and center for myself is why. Like, people call it your why. Like, what's your why? My why is to have more financial and time freedom for myself and my family. And I don't think I'm going to get that from having a job or a salary through a business. I think I'll find that by creating a business that can generate enough momentum and attract enough people such that it is providing me personally with that why, and have a meaningful place for people to work and earn for their families. That's my why. I would challenge anyone and everyone to understand what's your why. If your why is like, I hate having a boss and I just want to make more money, where it's like, figure out what you really signed up for. So figure out your why, and then understand how you're going to have to grow and educate yourself in different ways than you're already, figuring out in your W-2 or your hourly position. You've got to become a whole different person to start, grow, and operate a business. But it's worth it.
No, I think that's all great advice. And, I think one thing though that, you might not have mentioned and just kind of we talked about earlier, but like, you don't have to have a business degree to figure all this out. Like, there are so many other ways that you can go and acquire this knowledge and this education and this skill set. Like, again, networking with others, joining coaching groups. Like, there's so many different networks out there of people who want to help you. All you got to do is show up in the right place, learn and surround yourself by people who have already been there and done that, and then focus on it. Devote time to your own personal and professional development. And that's how you can keep excelling. Like, you're not going to know everything day one.
Expect it.
That is just a fact. But like, as long as like you reflect on and you learn from what worked, what didn't work, what could I do better next time? I think Tyler and I both, sort of sometimes we're always looking at, well, that was good, but like, what could I have done better?
Yes.
Have that mindset and do focus on continual improvement. Like, never get stuck, in your ways. Never think that just because I've been doing it for the last 10, 20, 50 years, that's the way I should keep doing it. Like, that isn't the case. Like, you can't just accept status quo. It's so important to just keep growing and keep learning. And I think same thing, with what you said about knowing your why. Like, I mean, for me too, that's exactly like, I work more hours than anybody. I'm not in this for the money. I've already sold the company. I do not need the paycheck. Like, I am here because like, I want to give back and to help others. Like, I was super fortunate. My dad, he was my CFO, my last company, CFO of this company. Like,
awesome.
I'm the son of an entrepreneur. Like, it's natural that I would become an entrepreneur, but like, I understand what he did for me and how he was my mentor growing up and my advisor and my guide. And like, I want to help other people be able to have, that same inspiration and motivation and drive, and like somebody to tell you, like, you can do it. Like, here are the things that you need to focus on. Go do it. Go, don't accept no. Like, just be persistent, try, work hard, and those are the things that like, at the end of the day, like, my goal is to create the biggest platform that I possibly can to help the most number of, contractors out there to build a successful business. Like, I've seen what it takes. And, I hope as many other people can have that same level of success. And that's what drives and motivates me. And
you just gave me goosebumps. No, and I think I love everything you just said. Like, you were primed to think like this, think like an entrepreneur, where most people that are going to make that decision to start their own business after working in the trades were not. They're probably going to be the exception in their family. And your point about getting around other people and networking and educating yourself, I think there's a lot of valuable ways to do that. One is listening to podcasts, reading or listening to books. If you haven't started doing that, that is an extremely free version of educating yourself, hearing from other people and something else you said is see that other people have achieved what you are setting out to do. Therefore, you have proof of concept that it can work. Instead of, accepting what the world tells most of us, or what we're hearing from the world where it's like, yeah, other people do that. You don't do that. You're not an entrepreneur. You can't start your own business. Like the world won't believe in you. So you've got to believe in your damn self. And in order to support your dreams or your goals, it's really important to put yourself around people that have done it and that are proof that have done it. So whatever you're doing, you should be putting yourself in rooms around people that are better than you at the things that you want to do. Surround yourself with people that have already done what you aim to do. And then you be the dumbest person in the world, or in the room. Be the dumbest person in the room and ask great questions. Ask great questions from the people that have done it. Educate yourself. If you're spending time on social media scrolling and just laughing at dog videos and shit like that, go follow some meaningful accounts that post valuable things related to business. If you're going to consume content, you should consume very positive educational content that supports what you're trying to do. Go follow business pages, motivational pages, contractor pages, join the groups, listen to podcasts, listen to books. You don't even need a formal mentor. Eric can be your mentor with a different guest every single week. There's how many different podcasts, how many different books. Make those people your mentors without, the formality, but it's going to take intention, and doing exactly what Eric said is, you've got to find the education out there because it's all out there. How many businesses have been built? To think that you aren't capable of doing it is ludicrous. You just need to educate yourself and change your old habits in order to achieve new goals.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more, Tyler. Look, I really appreciate you coming on. I feel like you and I could probably do this all day
I'd drink a beer with you.
But look, thank you again for everything that you've done, for being that inspiration for others out there. I can tell that you really truly lead with a purpose. You wear your heart on your sleeve. You've done awesome work. Your in kitchen behind you is incredible looking.
Thank you.
But all of the work that I've seen you do is just really top notch. So, again, thanks for leading by example, really setting the bar as high as you possibly can for the industry as a whole. That's what will keep elevating all of us. I really appreciate you. Thank you for coming on today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I really appreciate what you're doing for the industry as well. And I think, the more people that know, that there's still heart in the industry, the better. So thanks for letting me share my story and thanks for putting out the education that you are.
Absolutely. See you soon. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Builder Stories. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and gained valuable insights that can help you in your journey along the way. Don't forget to subscribe to the show and leave us a review. And as always, if you or someone you know has a story to share, please contact us at builderstories.com. We'd love to hear from you. I'm Eric Fortenberry, and remember, every builder has a unique story. Keep building yours.